Hello and welcome back to my channel. It is time to ponder the question, what if? So, we just got the first episode of What If for the MCU after the creation of the multiverse at the end of Loki. So, if you haven't seen Loki, you probably shouldn't watch this video as well. I might talk about a few things, not too sure, but yeah, let's just keep going. After the end of Loki, we have the creation of the multiverse. And with this show, what seems to be happening is that we are going to have the Watcher take us through the creation and start of these new branch realities, these new universes being spun out after Sylvie killed Kang the Conqueror. I love this premise, and I really like this idea that, like, despite it not really referencing what happened in Loki, like if you watch Loki and then you watch this, you know that there's a clear causality there because of the ending of that series, and this is the start of the multiverse. So it's very, very cool that Marvel is tying these in, because I didn't really expect any tie-ins. I just assumed that the What If series might just be like one-offs and not necessarily tied to anything else. But it seems like after the creation of the multiverse, these are all going to be new realities that are actually within the Marvel landscape. That being said, in this episode, the one difference that we see is Peggy Carter decided to stay in like the floor level of the experiment where Steve Rogers was supposed to become Captain America. As a result, what we have is Peggy notices something off about the Hydra agent that's in the room, and as a result, Steve Rogers gets shot. I think the doctor also dies right there as well. And then somehow Peggy ends up being the one to get the super soldier serum and become Captain Carter. At first, I assumed she would be calling herself Captain Britain, but I mean, I don't really care. It's not really a big deal, and I don't even know if Peggy Carter was ever a version of Captain Britain, but it just seemed like it would make sense to me. That's what I'd assumed, especially with the shield and everything. It felt like she was going to just be a version of Captain Britain, but I'm glad they made it like her own thing. It's something that I wasn't expecting in terms of the naming, but I don't really think it matters in terms of the overarching story. And yeah, I'm totally cool with the way that they chose to go about that. Before we keep going into the episode, I wanted to go back and discuss the Watcher in this story. So at the start, as well as at the end, we get a few words from the Watcher. I don't know if we actually know the name of this Watcher. I don't know if he's supposed to be Uatu, the Watcher, but he might be. I don't know. I don't know if we're ever going to actually see him in any scenes. I really hope that we do, because I think it would be really cool to have the Watcher break his rules of interacting, or not interacting rather, with the events that he's observing. And also I do want to understand why he is observing the multiverse as opposed to a single universe, because typically the Watchers are each in charge of their own universe that they will then observe and record everything about. But in this case, we have the Watcher observing all these different realities, and I want to know if there's a particular reason for that. Potentially it could be because of the restart of the multiverse. The Watchers haven't really figured out having a single Watcher for each separate universe. It might be something like that, but I do hope that they discuss it and we learn more about the Watcher as the series goes on, because I just think it would be really, really cool to add a little bit more understanding of the Marvel cosmos in terms of things that are much more beyond the regular day-to-day Marvel atmosphere, where it's like you have regular characters, they're interacting, some big things are going on, but then you have larger than life characters like the Watcher, or you have like even Shima-Gorath, which seems to be in this episode, like characters like that. And I want more backstory for those characters as well, so that this show can just go as crazy as it can. And yeah, that's just really what I'm hoping for moving forward. Also, I do hope, and I highly doubt this unfortunately, that we get some reference to Stan Lee's conversation with the other Watchers. I think it would be really, really cool to address that, just even in a throwaway line from the Watcher. I mean, if we get something like that, it would just be a nice way to tie in Stan Lee into this story once again. So yeah, I mean, that's just something else that, I hope for. I highly doubt we'd get it, but I have my hopes. The last thing I want to say with The Watcher is that I absolutely love the voice actor's voice for The Watcher. It gave me chills just watching that first opening where he's just talking, and I just, whoever they casted, or actually I know who they casted Jeffrey Wright. I think I'm blanking on what he's from, but he's very well known as of now, but his voice just does such a good job at capturing you as you start watching this video, or start watching this episode, and I love the casting for it. It was so good. Now, back to the actual bread and butter of this episode, we have Captain Carter. So, of course, this is Peggy Carter. With Captain Carter, my favorite scene is that she breaks in to the Hydra base by herself, and just like that entire scene, her reaction to her abilities, the way that she fights, everything, like the animation, all that stuff was top notch. I mean, the actress who plays Peggy Carter did such a wonderful job with just expressing joy as she discovers just how strong and capable she is. I just thought it was very, very cool to see throughout this episode. Next, of course, we have the Tesseract, which is brought back since this is taking place around the time, or during the time of the original first Avenger film for Captain America, and we have the Tesseract this time being taken by the Allied forces much earlier on thanks to Captain Carter, and we end up having Steve Rogers becoming the Hydra Buster? I think it was Hydra Smasher, maybe something like that, but regardless, he's Iron Man. And I thought this was such a cool way to bring about the introduction of Iron Man much earlier on in the timeline, thanks to Howard Stark gaining access to the Tesseract, because in the modern age, we have Tony Stark, who ended up having to use the arc reactor to do the same thing, but an Infinity Stone is a much more capable power source, and Howard is able to create an Iron Man suit much earlier on so that Steve Rogers can still join the fight and be a hero. Just a very cool twist on the original idea of Captain America and Iron Man, and it was just wonderfully done. I don't know if this was from an original comic or if this was an original idea, but one way or another, I just loved watching their dynamic on screen. I thought it was really, really fun, and yeah, that's all I really have to say on that. One last thing here is actually that the Tesseract is used to open a portal to another dimension. I assumed this was just going to suck up the Red Skull, just like the original timeline, but instead, we get the introduction of a character that seems to be Shima-Gorath, which is like Cthulhu, if anyone knows what that is. It's a creature created by H.P. Lovecraft way back when, and yeah, I thought this was very, very cool. I do believe this is Shima-Gorath. I could be wrong about that though. I am not certain, but yeah, I mean, I think it's cool to be introducing much more cosmic creatures to the MCU, especially in this format, because it allows a lot more crazier stuff to be introduced in an animated form without as much money having to be put in. So yeah, I'm all for it. I really, really enjoyed it, and feels bad for Red Skull. I mean, he just got crushed after summoning this creature, and yeah, that's all I have to say on that as well. Regarding Shima-Gorath though, I do hope that this stuff all ties into the Multiverse of Madness. I mean, I don't know if Shima-Gorath is supposed to be a entity just per universe or if he's something extra dimensional, but I really hope that he is, because it would be cool to see a full-on version of this creature fighting off against Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. That's just my thoughts, and I do think that with the Multiverse of Madness as a whole, a lot of the stuff from this series is probably going to tie into that. I mean, originally I didn't really think this was going to be too tied in when I first saw the first episode, but the more I think about it, the more I think, all these different realities being created, I mean, obviously that has to have some impact, and hopefully we do see some of these characters once more in the Multiverse of Madness film. Who knows to what extent, but it would be really, really cool to see. That being said, the one character I hope they don't just end off here with would definitely be Captain Carter. I mean, I do want to know more about what happens after that scene where she comes back to the future. Very reminiscent of how Loki appears in the first Avengers film in the SHIELD base, except this time Nick Fury and Hawkeye realize that this is Captain Carter, and they tell her, it's been, I think, 60 years, something like that, since she disappeared. So yeah, I really, really liked that scene, and I do hope that we potentially see another What If episode with her again in the future, but who knows? I mean, I doubt that they're gonna have multiple episodes with the same characters. It feels like every single episode is likely gonna be a completely different timeline, but who knows? Maybe later on some of them will start diverging and converging. I'm not really too sure. I think that would be really cool if things get a little bit crazier and we have characters actually traveling between some of these worlds. I think that would be a lot of fun to see. So yeah, what are your thoughts on the first episode of What If? Did you enjoy it? Are you looking forward to any other characters in particular? Are you excited for the next episode? How do you think this is going to tie in to the next film? I mean, let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. I'm very curious on this because I really want to know how this is going to tie in to the rest of the MCU moving forward. And yeah, if you liked this video, please like the video, and of course subscribe for more videos from my channel. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye.